I don't imagine that this will be a particularly popular point of view. I can deal with that. The purpose of this video is not necessarily to convince anyone of anything, it's merely to pose a philosophical question that's been nagging on me for some time. Labels. We don't like labels. Labels have cooties. Or rather, I should say, there's a large number of us that don't like labels. And my question is, why? Now, of course, the answer from those people would typically be, because this label is too strict for me. It doesn't encapsulate who I am. It doesn't describe me as a person. There's more to me than this. Of course. And to that I would say, well, no shit, Inspector Gadget. Humans are endlessly complex creatures. Granted, most of them are dumb as paste, but for the most part, even the largest paint chip connoisseur that you encounter on a daily basis has such diverse and intricate inner workings that it's very difficult to describe in even a paragraph, let alone a few sentences. So then, is it any wonder that the factors that have led us to become top of the food chain, to become these sentient, conscious beings that explore the world around us, that question the universe, that make these scientific leaps and bounds to become the dominant species on the planet? Is it truly that curious that these factors would produce variables that couldn't be codified in a single word, or perhaps two words? In our Gothic subculture, we are gifted with this wonderful, beautiful array of diversity, in such that the members of our subculture are allowed to discover themselves, to branch out into brand new ground that is more or less wholly their own, and explore their own interests, and yet still have a home in this common ground where their similarities and the things that they enjoy can still bring them together. And of course I'm not an anthropologist or anything, but to the best of my knowledge, no other subculture can boast this kind of diversity. Yet, when we attempt to quantify the individual things that make us so diverse, the anti-label people come along and shut us down. Why? What is it about labels that so intrinsically makes them a negative thing? Obviously, I identify as Geek Goth. But does this describe me wholly as a person? Does this even describe me in the oeuvre of Gothicness? Of course not. I mean, I can't be the only douchebag that's gone to blackwaterfall.net and played the Let's Find Me game. Well, shit. Nobody breaks down into one simple little box that can just be written on with a Sharpie, and that is who and what they are. It doesn't work. For instance, even though I typically prefer post-punk or fourth wave music, I am a rather large fan of industrial. I really like bands like Incubite before they went and I still listen to Nachtmar or Eisenfunk from time to time. I would have explored industrial goth a bit more closely. However, to be honest, male cybergoth fashion doesn't really suit my tastes. I think the female cybergoths look amazing. However, body armor and that Cyrax from Mortal Kombat top knot thing doesn't really echo the joy I feel in exploring the darker natures of the mysterious world around us. Plus, with all due respect, every time I see a guy with goggles on his forehead, I always feel like they should be accompanied by a fire-breathing orange dinosaur. That's just me. I could have easily fit into the subgrouping of vampire goth. I've loved vampires ever since I was a little kid. Bram Stoker's Dracula is, to this day, my favorite novel. I love movies like Interview with a Vampire, and would I be a vampire if I had the chance? Hell yes, then I could just eat all the stupid people. You can't tell me there's not an ample supply. I would never have to pay for food again. Come on, it's win-win. I did kinda have an experience with sanguinarian vampirism, but I say that very loosely, as I feel like saying that I've actually tried it would be an insult to the people of that particular spiritual following. Let's just say the chick that I was with was a few bats short of a bell tower, if you catch my drift. I was dating this chick for about 6 months, and we were watching Queen of the Damned, because Chaz the Walking Stereotype marches on. And she began to tell me these stories of all the times that she would drink blood with her group of friends, and all the adventures that ensued therein. And she asked me if I wanted to try it. And I went, well, fuck it, and I'll try anything once, right? Now, if you've actually researched people, such as like Don Henry or Michel Belanger, the people that actually do these kinds of things, they are very sterile about it, medically sterile. They use brand new lancets. Everybody, one of their donors is tested. It's a very, very clean process. So I was expecting that. Fuck no! She tells me to hold out my arm and goes whack with a straight razor. What do I say to this? I mean, first of all, that's obviously dangerous as fuck. Kids don't try this at home, but what am I supposed to do here? Nah, I changed my mind. Put the skin back. But I choose, and it is my choice, to identify as Geek Goth. Why do I do so? Well, there's a bit of a story behind that. You see, back when I was in high school, not that many moons ago, a couple of years by now, 7, I was one of those hopeless romantic saps that had a crush on a girl that wanted nothing to do with me. And I must have invoked her ire in some way, because I'll never forget. I was sitting with a group of my friends when one of them jokingly called me a nerd. And I asked them, how am I a nerd? Which was a legitimate question. I mean, I just didn't know it at the time. And she, who was sitting a few seats over, goes, yeah, you are, and turns around and goes back to her friends. And at first it hurt. But as I was walking back to my locker after class, I began to have an epiphany. And I thought to myself, whoever said that being a nerd was a bad thing? Yes, hell yes, I am a nerd. And I love being a nerd. I really love it. I've made some of the best friends I've ever had in my life through playing D&D, or Magic the Gathering, or joining the anime club in high school. I revel in being a nerd, and I waved that shit like a battle flag every day since. So when I joined the Gothic subculture, and when I say joined, I was already well into my baby bat stage at the time this had happened. I'm more referring to that transitional period where it started to reflect more in my outward appearance. I was loath to lose that aspect of my persona, by which I mean I am now who I was then, and I was then who I am now, with the exception of maybe being a bit smarter, I hope. But from a third-party perspective, I would have gone from being, hey, that nerd over there, to, hey, that goth over there. And it was something I was honestly I'd grown to become very proud of. So, when I found the terminology Geek Goth, the clouds parted above me, and of course it was nighttime, because me and the sun ain't exactly homies, but I digress. I found something new to exult in. I call myself a Geek Goth, because I'm proud of who I am. Others may not agree with my decisions. My grandmother's probably rolling over in her grave right now over the fact that I have long hair and makeup. I grew up in Texas in a very conservative Christian home. My biological mother hates the fact that I'm goth. My stepfather probably thinks I'm a raging homosexual. Although, to be fair, I did kind of discredit that notion the night I brought a girl over to my mother's house and ended up knocking out 4 of their shower tiles. Which was an interesting conversation to have with my mommy. If you think it's difficult to explain to your mother how you broke a vase... Oh, well, you see, Ma, one thing led to another, and I guess her legs just don't bend that way. You know what I mean? Come on, you had 5 kids, you know what I mean. I fucking hate my mother. I think the reason that people tend to view labels as negative is because it's often heaped upon them from someone else. I say, if you're going to take a label, wear it as a badge of honor. Don't let the label wear you. I'm Chaz the Geek Goth, and I'm proud as fuck of who I am. Stay batty.